As a Christian, number one, as you were alluding to, it is our Christian belief that a marriage relationship is supposed to symbolize the love of God, of Jesus Christ for his church. It's supposed to be unbreakable. And Jesus was even asked in Matthew 19, well, Jesus, is there any reason, basically, this is his disciples. And again, equating it to the church today. Lord, can a man divorce his wife for any reason or for no reason whatsoever? And Jesus said, from the beginning, it was never meant to be this way. And they're shocked. What do you mean? We have to, we can't just divorce whatever. And Jesus said, God created the two. He brought them together. He made them one flesh. What God has brought together, let no man tear apart. Don't you dare do this. If you are a Christian attorney and you are helping in a divorce that needs not take place, you are sinning. If you are a Christian judge and if you are granting a divorce and then finding, I'm going to do this because the law says I have to. No, you are sinning. You are compromising your testimony. If you're a Christian pastor or an elder in the church and you sit back while you see two people in your congregation getting a divorce, you are not leading the church aright. You are sinning and you are part of the problem. You need to become part of the solution.
Jeff, isn't it part of the problem, though, that we have government involved in our marriage at all? I mean, we're commingling marriage with unbelievers, right? So we have statistics now where people are saying that Christians get divorced at the same rate as secular folks, but we have no way we know that the folks that take secular statistics, they have no idea how to differentiate between the people who are Christians who are not Christians. They can't tell the difference between a born-again believer and a Mormon or a Jehovah's Witness. They have no idea.
Right.
So they literally have no clue who is or is not a Christian, yet they're saying that these people are, and quite frankly, the terminology, the word Christian is a very popular term. It's the Christian term at this point, right? It comes from a long, long history, and at one point in time, it was illegal not to be a Christian. So everybody's a Christian.
Right. So, you make a very interesting statement there, and that's really a hard statistic, as you mentioned, to unpack. What I do know this is that if you look at denominations, there are some denominations that have lower incidence of divorce than other denominations in general. And so, for example, the Catholic Church, from my reading in the past, has about a 10% lower divorce rate. And why is that? Because the Catholic Church believes in the indissolubility of marriage. Once married, you need to actually, go through certain processes to get a divorce. And that's also if the bishop approves of your divorce. Now, what you're saying is that the state has actually taken over what used to be under the purview and the domain of the church. It used to be that when people married, they went to the church, they got married. I think they had to go for like 3 weeks or something, and if there were any objections, they could be raised. But the church married the people. It was considered a religious institute, and the state later took it over, and we did nothing. We just let it go. And that's where now the state, if it's under its control, it's going to make its rules. And it's the rules that have been happening, the things that have happened over the last, I don't know how many years, but we'll say no-fault divorce. No-fault divorce actually was really officially, it's officially notified as being granted or beginning in California under President Ronald Reagan. And in 1969. Now, the interesting thing about this is that, President Reagan, as you know, was divorced himself. He had his wife who was accusing him of mental cruelty. He knew what it was like to go through this stuff. But the other thing that people don't realize is that the person who was pushing forth the legislation had a reason to sponsor, to see this stuff go through. He was filing for a divorce against his wife, and he wanted to keep some money. And he did not want to have his assets split while he was, hooking up with somebody else. So he was able to get it through, but he and many other people actually lied to President Reagan regarding the whole thing, because he questioned them repeatedly. Is this good? And they all told him yes. So he signed it. But later on in his life, he said it was one of the biggest mistakes he made in public office. So even though, you can blame him at the beginning for doing it, there was a lot of deceit involved. And Ronald Reagan later said this was one of the worst things that I did. And something else, Joe, that people don't know with no-fault divorce. Originally, no-fault divorce was supposed to be a tool to help families stay together. It was never supposed to be divorce on demand. It said if we keep the accusations down, if we keep the conflict and the bitterness out at the beginning, maybe the people can come together and reconcile. And there was actually a tract that they would put these people through, and they saw a lot of successful people actually stay married. Now, not all of them stayed married for the entire lifetime, but for another 5 years or so, some of them, some longer, some for their entire lifetime. So no-fault divorce was never designed to be unilateral forced divorce. But the interesting thing is that if you go back in history a little bit further to Bolshevik Russia and Vladimir Lenin, he actually instituted unilateral forced divorce. And the reason he was doing it, he had one goal in mind: how to abolish the family. The family was considered a bourgeois institution, and the government that they were trying to impose, communism and everything else, they needed to get rid of this institution. And if you go back to the Atlantic Magazine 1926, go to Google and look up Atlantic Magazine 1926 Russia divorce, and the article will appear. It wreaked devastation on the society. It just completely devastated things to such an extent that there became a national debate. Is no-fault divorce good? We have not had that debate here in the United States. And the crazy thing to me, Joe, is that we know no-fault divorce was a failure in Bolshevik Russia. And yet somehow we have Americanized the exact same thing that Vladimir Lenin instituted, and we've said somehow this is now good for us. It's absolutely ludicrous and insane. I'll stop there. I mean, I could say a whole lot more, but I don't want to make it a monologue.
So somehow, I think you bring up so many good topics. I want to have you back on. I'm going to take a break right now, though.
Sure.
And, when we get back, I want to ask you a couple of things. I want to ask you about the church. Mm-hmm. What other things should the church be doing? How should Christians be getting involved in these types of issues, and where are they falling short? And how do we encourage brothers and sisters in Christ to get involved in being part of these important debates? So when we get back, Jeff Morgan on no-fault